joined now by Amit Vadera of TeamLease and PS Viswanath also with us. He's MD and CEO of Randstad India. Welcome to both of you and thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Mr. Vadera, let me begin with you and your take on the story that I'm talking about. We've already seen this put in place in some global companies, not really in India, where if you are permanently moving to a work from home situation, the employer does feel that your salary needs to be tweaked or re-looked at. Do you think this is fair, justified?
My view is that in India, work from home is still an evolving scenario. We have seen many organizations after the first pandemic came out saying that we will have majority of people will work from home, but I think as the vaccination drive has happened and the confidence has come back, I mean, the same organizations have again come back asking employees to come back to office. So I personally think it's an evolving scenario and organization may not take so soon action over changing the structure, this thing, while if the flexibility is been given by government to change the structure, there is always a better to work from office or this thing. While work from home will stay for long. I mean, it's not there to go away, but the extent of which it was between first pandemic and second pandemic, I think that extent may not be there. However, the structural flexibility will always be welcome, by the.
It is a fluid. No, there is a yes. No, but Mr. Vadera, I agree. I agree. It's a fluid situation, and clearly, all offices will not have work from home all the time. All offices will not have everyone in all the time. My question is that is this a model that's going to be acceptable to anyone in the Indian job market? Let me go across with that question to Mr. PS Viswanath while we try and improve Mr. Vadera's connectivity. Mr. Viswanath, I know Randstad is out with a survey talking about job trends coming up, and we'll talk about that as well and whether you think work from home will continue. But if this is going to be a permanent feature, if hybrid work is going to be a permanent feature, do you think that the same amount of tweaks in salaries will be acceptable in the Indian job market?
Well, Tamanna, thanks for having me in the show. I think it also boils down to, some of the global practices where they have something called as base salary, and then there are, other components which could be incentives, etc. But in India, if you see, the salary is broken into multiple components, mostly for tax purposes. So I don't believe that, end of the day, I think the compensation that is paid is for a certain work to be performed, irrespective of whether it's performed in an office or at home, right? So I don't believe that, salary should go down. Having said that, there could be certain components of salaries which are based on, maybe the city where you operate, and where it's based on cost of living in that. So for example, HRA and even the tax rules say it could be 40 or 50% depending on a tier 1 or a tier 2 city. So I guess those are flexible areas where companies can take, compensation actions. But to be fair to employees, I think irrespective of where they work from, the compensation should not change.
Yeah. Mr. Vadera, let me come back to you then on that basic question. It's about whether this is fair, whether it will be acceptable in the Indian context. Should you get paid less because you are not paying a high rent and you're not in a large metro city, or that you are working from your home and you're not making the commute to office? Should then that be considered as a reasoning to change your salary structure?
See, the change in salary structure doesn't mean you are reducing the salary. Now, what I understand from the article you were referring, is there will be change in component. Now HRA is a component which has been given, and there is a 50 percentage, when you are working in metros, and 40 percentage when you are working in non-metro, you get a tax benefit, right, over these allowances. However, there are parallelly other allowances which will take over, if not HRA allowances, like telephone, mobile, internet, Wi-Fi. Those allowances will start coming in. So it is not that it's going. This a change in
It's
structure would mean a
exemption.
reducing salary.
Yes, but
For
true,
however, for
true,
all the
Mr.
new
Vadera,
employees,
I
which
understand that. I understand that, but I know that that component will be shifted elsewhere. Let me just clarify my point, because this should not confuse viewers. I understand that that component, suppose you are being paid, for example, 1,000 rupees on HRA, it will be shifted somewhere else. But the fact is that your tax exemptions will reduce, because there is a tax benefit to HRA, which will reduce your take-home pay. So effectively, it is the same impact for the employee, isn't it?
no, but some of the components which are coming, like for example, telephone, mobile, furniture, or any allowances where you are providing a bill, those will be tax exempted, ma'am. So the tax exemption will get, and even if you are moving
Okay.
back to your parents' house, for example, uh, you can still avail a tax benefit by paying rent to your parents. So those benefits, I assume, will continue. However, it's an evolving situation, so we'll have to
Okay.
see what.
Okay. All It is an evolving situation. All right, we were coming to the crux of it, and I think Mr. Viswanath put it well, that if you're doing the same amount of work, it doesn't really matter where you're doing it from. In fact, Mr. Viswanath, someone would argue that working from home extends your work day perpetually. There is, no line leaving you with any relief. But let me come to the larger question. Towards the end of 2021, while we're speaking, does it seem likely that we're going to continue with this hybrid/work from home model? At least in some sectors, you've had large companies which have extended their deadline for people to come back into office. And this is a story that is continuing in the next year. Is that a trend that you see?
Yeah, Tamanna. I think the way we conduct and operate has changed forever. I think the concept of work from anywhere is here to stay, with large companies classifying employees into work from office, hybrid, and work from home. While work from anywhere is a new normal, a large part of the office infrastructure would mostly be used for meetings, celebrations, sensitive work, which will happen from the office. Even traditional sectors, they're using online medium. So I think I believe that this is going to stay, and there could also be some roles which are permanently work from home, and it's been helping the employees, from the commute. Productivity in most companies, what we hear, has gone up. And then for the companies, I think it's also about saving real estate cost. I think if the part of employee engagement is addressed effectively through good coming back to work, we call it as the new ways of working in Randstad, and if that is addressed, I think it will go a long way in ensuring that this whole hybrid working is successful.
Another interesting aspect from your report today, it also talks about how most workplaces will be populated by Gen Z and millennials who are putting work-life balance on topmost priority when they're choosing employers. Do you think that that is something Indian companies on a whole are now getting more aware of and are willing to accommodate, or is this still restricted to a few top companies?
Well, Tamanna, if I may take it.
Tamanna, is that question to me? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's for
Tamanna,
Mr.
Sorry,
Vishwanath.
Vishwanath, please go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, definitely yes. I think it's for the large companies to kind of role model some of these, because Gen Zs and the millennials, they are going to be a significant portion of the workforce in future, and they look for just one thing, that is flexibility. And if that part is not addressed, they are no longer interested in working for that organization. They also look for companies which ensure that they care for their employees, and they also value the work that they do. So I think it's important that organizations take this seriously, and also allow these millennials and Gen Zs to bring their true self forward to work. So I think workplace has to become a lot more, focusing on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And that's going to be something which is going to be defining the future of work.
Yeah, and that should be for everyone, even if you're not a millennial or a Gen Z. That's only fair. But if they're pushing forward the envelope, then why not? Well, thank you so much for that, Mr. Vadera and Mr. Vishwanath, for joining us on the show.